Today we are going to take a look at constraint layout and a specific example of how can we use some features of constraint layout like barrier, how can we use group also, and how can we just use in general constraint layout to get a complex view going without multiple linear layouts or relative layouts, which can be bad for performance, especially if you have a long list. So the example I'm looking at here is, let's say we have this payment method for courses, right? And let's say we have the first course, the second one, and then the fee, and then the total payment, and we have the payment here at the center. So let's say this is the new format of displaying the payments broken down, where we have each course separately. And let's say we have another format. Of course we won't have this button, but I just want to illustrate where we can switch, and the old format is courses payment, the entire payment of courses, and the fee, and then the entire total payments, and so just two lines. But what if we want to support this in the same view, right? We want to be able to have the app supports displaying both courses, and also at the same time support displaying just one course pay, the entire course payment in one line. Okay, this may be not very realistic, but just give you the idea of sometimes it may be a different sort of payment, but this is the idea of what we are looking to accomplish. So here I have a constraint layout, right, as the parent. I have the button, and then I have these text here as a separate. So basically no linear layout here. This is a flat one level layout where we have the text view here for the payment, and then a text view here for the entire payment, the one that we display when we have the one that we display here, so the entire course's payment. And then we have here each course broken down, so the first course payment, and then the amount next to it here, and same thing for the second course with the amount next to it. Okay, so, and then we have the fee here, which is the one below, and then the amount, the fee amount, and a divider, and then the total payment, right? Okay, so the interesting thing though is I want to be able to toggle when I click this button, the switch button here. I want to be able to toggle between displaying, making these two visible, or making this one visible. Okay, let's first just look at making them visible. So the thing is, this is 4 views, right? It's not just one linear layout, or one horizontal linear layout here and one horizontal linear layout here, or maybe one entire vertical linear layout. It's not that way. It's 4 views, and we don't want to go on each view and set the visibility, right? When we switch off, we want to set the visibility off of each one of these 4 views. We don't want to do that manually, because every time we change the view ID, we'd have to go there, and it's just hard to maintain, right? A simpler way of doing that with linear layout, with the constraint layout, is to use view groups. So it's to use groups here, and this basically what's allowed you to do is to say this group represents this set of layouts by defining them in this constraint referenced IDs here. And then once you do that, you could just take this ID and set the visibility to true or false for the entire set of views that are here. So what I have here is one group, and then I have the first course title, and then its amount here, and then the second course title and its amount here, and then I have this ID for them. And now when I switch, if I go back to the activity, when we click on switch format button, which is this button here, what I'm doing is, so let's focus on here, right? So when we want to make it visible, the old format was visible. When we want to switch to the new format with both courses in, so I could just take one group and set it visible to true, right? So I could just take this group here, the constraint layout group, and I set it to true. That way I set all 4 views to visible, right? In a similar way, I'm doing the same thing for the old format. The old format, remember, is just course payment title and course payment amount. So if I switch, this is the old format. And so here, what I'm doing is I can just group these two views here under this old course payment, and in the main activity, I can just set visible that one ID, and I'll be done. Now, if I want to add a new view here to the old format, I could just add it here, right? I could just add it below, and maybe add some constraint, and let's say here new view or something, and then all I have to do is add it to this group, and its visibility will be controlled in the same way, right? So it's a lot more flexible. So that's for so, and also here, if I want to see in the design layout, see the old view, I can just mark the group with tools visibility. Tools allows you to just make changes for this design layout. It doesn't get reflected in the final app, and so it allows you to see different variations here. So I could set this to visible with the tools, and then go to the group for the new courses, which contains the 4 views, and set this to be hidden, right? And so now I can see the old format. So this is pretty handy when developing. Okay, so this takes a look at the at just using group for visibility. Another thing we want to do is, so one other problem is that, let me just go back to the old. Okay, cool. So for fee here, what we want to happen for fee is that in the old format we want it to be below course 2, right? But sorry, in the new format we want it to be below course 2, but in the old format we want it to be below course. Now, we can't make a view in constraint layout be the bottom, like its top be the bottom of 2 views at the same time, right? We can't have this fee here have its top being bottom of both course 2 and then also course payment, right? The old one. We can't have that. You only have, for bottom to top of, you only have one ID. You can provide only one ID. And that's exactly what barrier is for. It basically says, okay, I'm putting a barrier here, and my view should be below that barrier no matter what. And then that barrier can reference the views that it's below them, or whatever direction you want, either to the bottom of them, to the top of them, or to the right or left. And then once that barrier is set, you can be behind it. And so that way you can reference multiple views and say that your barrier is below multiple views. So whichever one is visible, it gets to be below it. And then that way this fee here gets basically to be below both, depending on whichever one is visible. And so the way we achieve that is we use this barrier here, and we say we want it to be to the bottom of the both courses, or in the case of the old format, the entire course payment. And here we use constraint reference ID again to say what is this barrier to the bottom of. And here I'm saying it's to the bottom of the old course payment group and the new courses payment group. And this one is just the 2 views. In the case of the old courses payment here, it's just below the courses payment. Or if I go back to barrier, it's below the new group, and that's here below course 1 and course 2, right? So depending on whichever one is visible, the barrier would work out fine. But the barrier says no matter which one is visible, this one is below, the barrier is below both of them, right? So you could reference multiple views that way. And here the barrier direction, you can set whether you want it to the top of them or you want it to the left and start. All of those are options that we can use. And now fee gets to be below 2 views depending on which one is visible at any point, right? So this is also pretty handy to accomplish the constraint layout of the constraint that fee stop should be to the bottom of either this old one or these 2 new ones, depending on the which one is visible, right? And that's pretty much it. So yeah, so basically just to sum up, we are using a constraint layout here, and what we have is each view is, so for example, another thing that I should mention here is I'm saying I'm arranging these views just using bottom to top of. So for the barrier, I need to say that the barrier is, so this view here, the old view, the old payment, bottom is to the top of the barrier, so that the barrier is always below it, right? And doing the same thing also for the new course, which is here for the second row, because we want fee to be always below the second row. So we also additionally need to set this for the barrier to work, right? Now generally the structure of the constraint layout here is just we have these views, and you can see even for the course payment title, or let me just, for this first course and its amount, we didn't need an extra linear layout to make them align like this, where the first one is to the left and the second one to the right. All we needed to do is make, using constraint layouts, say that the baseline of this view should be to the baseline of this view, which basically says they should be aligned, like they should be, if you draw a line below them here, they should be aligned like that. And that's, and saying that this view here should be to the end of the parent so that it can get placed here at the end. And that's pretty much what we are doing here for every title and amount. And instead, if we weren't using constraint layout, we would have to have used a horizontal linear layout and used a parent linear layout that is vertical, making this nest to like 2 levels, right? But this way it's just 1 level. Yep, so pretty much just one single constraint layout, and we could use group to control visibility of a set of views, and we could use barrier to say, to make, for example, a view be below multiple levels at the same time, like be constrained by multiple views at the same time. And so this is pretty handy.